Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go sit down now.
Somebody.
Good morning, everyone. I will now call the June 20th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting to order. The time is 11:01. Madam Clerk, can you please provide us with an overview of the meeting procedures?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. Committee of the Whole is the initial venue for Council to review information to ensure that Council can debate and vote on issues at a future Council meeting. No voting takes place on bylaws or resolutions during the Committee of the Whole. This meeting is being conducted through the city's One Meeting platform. However, we're experiencing issues with the PrimeGov solution for live meeting management that are still being addressed by the vendor. In the interim, we will not be using the system for voting and speaking management purposes. Instead, Council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, and yellow for point of order. We will take manual notes of the votes and log them into the system. To be put on the speaker list, please physically raise your hand so that the chair can add you to the list. For members of the public who would like to speak during the community forum, if you're participating electronically, please register as a speaker by clicking on the microphone icon in the One Meeting portal, turn on your camera, and clearly state your name and city of residence before beginning comments. If you're attending in person, please come forward to the podium when the chair invites speakers and clearly state your name and city of residence before beginning your comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. As we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the City of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. Okay, up first we have the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Mayor Rumi, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Are there any changes required? Let's go to my online people. Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, and that is passed unanimously. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes. This is from Committee of the Whole on June 6th, 2023. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Mayor Rumi. Are there any amendments required for the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as provided? And that has passed unanimously. Thank you. Great. Okay. What do we have next?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is application 5.1, which is 2023-036 rezoning for 11610 Adair Street from RS1 to RT2. Staff are in attendance to present the application to Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. And please go ahead with the presentation whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. The above noted application is being considered for first reading for 11610 Adair Street. The area is designated, including this lot, urban residential. The existing zoning is RS1 single detached residential and is proposed to be rezoned to RT2 ground-oriented residential infill. The site is approximately 0.23 acres. And the purpose is to permit construction of a triplex. And the slide is not advancing here. This is the application shown on the lower right-hand corner of the street at the intersection of Adair and 116th. Just noted that this street, Adair, does not go through. There's a blockade at the end of the road that's intended to stay there for the longer term. So that's a dead end street. There's also 3 triplex applications on the other side of Adair Street that you see in Hatching that have received first reading from Council. Similar size lots and similar proposals to this one. think it's not quite advancing. Maybe it's not. Yeah, might need the clerk to help me. This is the urban residential designation showing that designation on the surrounding area and the subject lot. And next slide. This is the subject property on the orthophoto showing the single family area here, the townhouse project to the west, and then also the park to the south. Next slide. So as noted, this is to zone the property to RT2 ground oriented residential to permit future construction of a triplex. It's designated urban residential, which supports the RT2 zoning up to triplex for local roads such as this. As mentioned before, Adair Street is not a through street, and the preliminary design gives basically 4-bedroom layout with 3.5 baths, quite large units in each of the units in the triplex, and double side-by-side garages for each unit and the outdoor area. If this application will proceed through to conclusion past third reading, there'd be a development permit for form and character that would be required for this project also, as it's a ground-oriented residential infill project. The CACs applicable to this project will be approximately $11,400 or at such rate applicable at third reading. The rates are proposed to go up on August 1st, so it might be a higher rate at that. Next slide, please. This is a subject site plan showing the proposal, the 116th Avenue to the south and Adair Street frontage to the left, and showing the the individual private outdoor areas to the back, and a number of coniferous trees which staff are attempting to protect through this application. There's 3 significant trees and 9 trees in total on the bottom of the property here. Next slide, please. So the recommendation here is to give the application a rezoning amending bylaw 7920/2023 first reading, and that the applicant provide the further information in Schedule CD of the Development Procedures Bylaw. Madam Chair and Committee.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Carreras?
Live. Just a quick question. I know this is really early on in the process and we're just sort of, are we okay with a triplex going in there? I just curious about the design that's in here. Is this the final design or is there going to be some reworking of that design to make sure it fits in a little bit better with the community?
It is, Madam Chair, through Councillor Carreras and Committee, this is first reading. We haven't even got to development permit. I would say that based on experience, the design is, partially done. It will have to go through detailed fine tuning through the advisory design panel and also through to staff review and looking at things such as preservation of the trees and driveway location and massing.
Okay. I look forward to some reworking. Anyhow, thank you.
Mayor Remy, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the presentation through the chair to staff. So I'm just trying to, when we look at different concepts, here we're talking about a triplex.
Yes.
Now coming from back east, Montreal, we're used to having duplexes. So you have a person living on the first floor, second person living upstairs. Am I correct in assuming that this is the same concept, although it would be 3 levels?
No, each of the units are split up, so they all are ground-oriented units.
So there would be 3 separate entrances on the ground.
Yes.
Okay, and then there would be 3 levels. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm looking at it. So each unit would have 3 levels.
Mhm.
And if I'm just wanted to confirm that the mix, so each unit would have 4 bedrooms.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yes.
Perfect.
Quite large units.
Perfect. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to make sure I understand that, so are we saying that within each triplex unit, there are 3 different units, and so for a total of 9 units on that property? Or are we only saying that there are only 3 units on the total property?
So it's a triplex with 3 different units, which will be stratified most likely. They each have 4 bedrooms each.
Okay, and so each triplex is further divided into 2 suites for a total of 9 suites on the property. It's just 3.
There's 3
in
units
total.
with bedrooms each, yes.
Great, thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
I just wanted to ask a little bit about the tree retention. Sort of in regards to this proposal specifically, you mentioned that efforts were being made to retain the trees. It looks like they're kind of on the edge of the lot, so that might be helpful. But can you just sort of explain to me, like, what efforts can be undertaken to preserve the trees? And if the trees are ultimately not able to be retained, what happens then?
Right, Madam Chair, through the committee. So at this early stage, we haven't had the final design, but the goal is looking at the arborist report and talking to the city arborist and the staff involved is to try to save the significant trees. There's 9 trees along the 116th frontage, and 3 of them are deemed to be significant in our bylaw, given their health and size. So the idea is to save as many trees as possible, and particularly those 3 trees. So things that could be done to protect trees, and that we're just starting the process, can be adjustments to the form and the foundation of the building, or slight location changes of the setbacks. Those are some of the things that can be looked at, or flipping the design of the building. So those are all things that can be looked at.
And can you just clarify for me, because I believe then if trees are removed, just in a more general sense, that is there like a financial contribution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's a cash in lieu payment that's determined by the city arborist based on the number of trees that are being removed and the size of the trees. So in projects such as this, that can amount to a number of thousands of dollars that goes into the city tree planting fund, which are used typically in city projects or city streets over time when we accumulate enough money for that purpose.
Great. Thank you very much. Just looking around one more time to see if we have any questions. Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this to the next council meeting? And that is unanimous. We'll move on to the next item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is item 5.2, 2017-002, rezoning for 24487 112 Avenue from RS3 to RS1B. Staff are in attendance to present the application to council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Sorry, I think we missed the first couple of slides. Thank you. This presentation is for the rezoning application 2017-002-RZ for the property located on 24487 112 Avenue. For the first and second reading for the zoning amendment bylaw 7943-2023 and the OCP amending bylaw 7944-2023. The purpose of this application is to rezone the southern portion of the subject property from RS3 single detached rural residential to RS1B single detached medium density residential to create 24 RS1B zone lot with a minimum lot area of 371 square meters, as well as dedication of 14,200 square meter of the conservation area. It's not working. Thank you. The subject property is located within the Albion area plan and within the urban area boundary of the OCP and is subject to the Albion area density bonus amenity contribution, which basically allows a reduced minimum lot area and increased lot yield subject to the financial contribution towards the local amenities. Back in June 2017, Council granted first reading to the rezoning of this property, which basically at the time proposed to rezone the entire site from RS3 to RS1B and RS1D, both of them subject to the density amenity contribution, in order to create 25 RS1B lot and 6 RS1D lot. Following the first reading grant of the first reading by council, the applicant provided environmental and geotechnical assessment report as well as the habitat balance report. And it turned out that the environmental impact of the development on the northern part is significant, specifically through the road crossing on the northern portion of the property. And then following that, the applicant revised the proposal in order to limit the development of the site to only the southern portion. And that include basically any development of the northern portion, including dedication of the conservation area, construction of road and servicing on the northern portion will be subject to a future rezoning and subdivision application if the applicant determined to proceed with development of the northern portion. The subject property is currently designated low and medium density residential to the south of the watercourse, as well as low density residential to the north of the watercourse, and conservation along Dunlop Creek. Considering that this development is within 50 meters of the top of the bank of the watercourse, it's subject to the watercourse protection development permit area with the purpose of ensuring that protection, conservation, enhancement, and restoration of the watercourse and the adjacent habitat. The property is also contains some forested land and the steep slope greater than 15%, which triggers a natural features development permit area for the purpose of protecting the natural environment, as well as protecting the development against hazardous land. Generally speaking, this development is in line with the OCP policy and increased density. However, in order to ensure that this development will not negatively impact the natural environment and do the best effort to minimize the impact on natural environment, the applicant is required to extend the area of the conservation area on the northern portion by 7,300 square meter and dedicate 14,200 square meter of the conservation area, again, in the southern portion, which is the subject of the development. The applicant is also required to enter into an enhancement and restoration agreement in order to ensure all the restoration work within the in-stream areas will be done properly in accordance with the environmental assessment report. This is the orthophoto of the subject property. The property is adjacent to single-family residential development that would develop through kind of the same land use designation and density bonus provisions. A couple of years ago, to the north is an agricultural land reserve, and to the east and to the west, there are properties that are either designated conservation, will not be redeveloped, or they are designated for low density residential. And they are currently either vacant or contain a single family and farm use. The applicant has provided the survey plan for the trees as well as arborist report to identify any permit trees and significant trees that needs to be retained, removed, or replaced. Under the tree protection bylaw, any significant trees needs to be replaced and within the property. And there is also a tree canopy target of 40 trees within 1 hectare that needs to be met, which in this case, on the southern portion developable area, 52 trees needs to be either protected or compensated in order to meet the tree canopy target of the city. Okay, next slide, please. Can you move on to the next one? I explained this, yeah. As I mentioned, this project is subject to the density bonus contribution with the amount of 3,100 per lot, as well as the community amenity contribution to the amount of 5,100 per created lot. The applicant has held a development information meeting on May 12th and in the Albion Community Center to describe and present the application as well as respond to any concern that has arisen from the attendance. There have been a number of concerns regarding increased traffic, loss of green space, as well as some noise and disturbance regarding the construction and during the construction, and how this is going to impact the safety of the kids in the neighborhood. Next, please. Can you please go to the next one? Thank you. This is the subdivision plan as it shows that the development area is on the southern part of the property to subdivide the property into 24 RS1B lots with a minimum lot area of 371 square meters. The eastern portion of the property, around 15 to 30 meters from the top of the bank of Dunlop Creek, will be dedicated as a conservation area, and the northern portion with the area of approximately 1.77 hectare will remain under the current zone, and any development will be subject to a future review and future development. As part of this rezoning application, the applicant will be required to expand and reconstruct the 112 Avenue frontage through the construction of a 3-meter multi-use path on the northern portion of 112 Avenue. However, considering that there are some topographical and geotechnical and environmental constraints on both sides of the road, there would be a variance to reduce the arterial road standards of the subdivision and development servicing bylaw. At this time, there is no other variances to the lot configuration. However, any future variances will be brought forward to council through a separate report. Next, please. The full recommendation has been provided in the report. However, in general, we're recommending that this rezoning application that went through development information meeting as well as will be held in public hearing. It doesn't require any further consultation. The previous zoning amendment bylaw 7310/2017 that was granted by council back in 2017 for the initial rezoning application is requested to be rescinded, as that rezoning was for the entire property to both RS1B and RS1D, and this revised plan is significantly different. It is also recommended that the OCP amendment bylaw be considered in consideration with the capital expenditure plan and waste management plan, which has been done and it has no impact. And it is recommended that the official community plan and the zoning amendment bylaw be received first and second reading. Next slide, please. And this application proceed with subject to a number of terms and conditions that is outlined in the report prior to final adoption of this rezoning application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Are there any questions from council? I'll just go ahead then. And I'm just looking for some information on the Albion area density bonusing program. Can you just tell me a little bit about this program and sort of why we have it and how it works?
Sure. Under the Local Government Act, municipality have the option of allowing higher density and density bonus in exchange for some financial contribution towards some local amenities. This is a completely voluntary contribution, and the applicant can choose to either contribute or not. And in exchange for that, they will get a smaller lot area and increased lot yield. For example, under the RS1B zone, typical RS1B zone, the minimum lot area is 557 square meters. However, if the applicant chooses to use the density bonus, the minimum lot area will be 371 square meters. That means that they will get more lots and, basically higher density. But in this case, they contribute $3,100 per each created lot. And that money will be saved in the city's reserve fund. And the city can use that in order to provide some amenity in the Albion area. And some of the eligible amenities basically include the money can be used for construction or maintenance of park, multi-use trails, as well as construction of the civic facilities and community gathering.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this item forward to the next council meeting,
Thank you.
and I believe that's unanimous. Councillor Tan? Yes.
I have my green card out to move it to the council meeting.
Thank you very much, sir. There's
Thanks,
just
Madam Chair.
a lag there. I got you. Okay.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
And we're on to the next item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is item 5.3, rezoning 2020-237-RZ for 11070 Lockwood Street, as well as 24984, 25024, and 25038 112 Avenue, from RS3 to RS2, RS1B, and RM1. Staff are in attendance to present the application to council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
My glasses fogged up, sorry. Before you is application 2020-237RZ, and the properties are located in the East Albion area at 11070 Lockwood Street and 24984, 25024, and 25038 112th Avenue. And the application before you is a first and second reading for the official community plan amending bylaw and a second reading to the zoning amending bylaw. The application, the existing OCP, and this is the Northeast Albion area plan that's located within the Albion area plan. So the designations are townhouse, conservation, single family, suburban residential. And the proposed OCP is adjustments to the conservation boundaries between the townhouses and the single family designations. The existing zoning on the subject properties is RS3, which is single detached rural residential. The proposed zoning is RM1, which is a low density townhouse residential. RS1B, single detached medium density. And as the previous application, they're using the Albion density bonus to achieve the R1 lots, which is single detached low density urban residential. And on the portions that are designated suburban residential, there's a proposed of zoning of RS2 for one lot, which will have a split zone of RS1B and RS2, because portions of the property, and I will explain further in the presentation, lie outside of the urban containment boundary. The site area is 7.39 hectares, or approximately 18.24 acres. The proposed number of units is 102 townhouses and 37 single-family lots. These are the subject properties located south of 112th Avenue and east of Lockwood and north of the unconstructed 110th Avenue. And here's the official community plan context map within the Northeast Albion area, showing the low medium density residential designation, as well as the conservation. And outside of the hatched blue line, which is the urban containment boundary, is the suburban residential area. The neighborhood context plan showing the area. Unfortunately, the orthos aren't updated to show the first phase of the development north of 112th Avenue, which is a mixture of townhouses and R1 lots and RS2 lots and R3 lots. The development proposal to rezone the subject properties to RS2 single detached suburban residential and RS1B single detached medium density residential with a density bonus to permit a future subdivision of approximately 37 single family lots. In RM1 low density townhouse to permit 102 unit townhouse development. The development is located within a 5-minute walk to the future active park area, which I'll describe on future slides. And this is all within the Northeast Albion area plan to develop this park. The townhouse development will contain 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units. And the breakdown is 27 2-bedroom units, 60 3-bedroom units, and 15 4-bedroom units. Within the townhouse developments, the units will be pre-serviced for level 2 chargers, and it's up to each property owner in the future to choose what kind of charger they'll have outside of it. The proposed parking for the townhouse development meets the requirements of the off-street parking bylaw, and the details are before you. The LBN density bonus will be utilized to achieve the RS1 through the RS1B to R1 lots. And the current rate as detailed within the zoning bylaw is $3,100 per lot over 37 lots for a total of $114,700 in amenity contribution. Within the RM1 low density townhouse zone, it also permits a density bonus. And to achieve their FSR, they're going to be utilizing that. And that's at a rate of $3,100 per unit. So at 102 units, that would be $316,200. This application, in addition to the density bonus, is subject to the community amenity contribution program for a total of approximately $851,200. Proposed variances to the townhouse, as with many developments, there's always fine adjustments required to meet the design and complexities of the site. And they're proposing variances to the rear and side yards from 7.5 down to 4.2, and the front yards from 7.5 to 6 meters. And the minimum landscape area varied from 40% to 38%. The proposed variance will be subject to a future council report. And I won't go through all of the variances for you because they are before you. And again, these are all because of the complexity and design of the site. And we always hope to get compliance, but with all developments, in order to achieve design and utilization of the land, variances are inevitable. And this is the high-level site plan for the townhouse development. The townhouse development is broken into 2 components, the northern portion and the southern portion. And within that is our community park, the active park. And this is a high-level landscaping plan, and it's all part of a future report to council through the development permit and development variance permit procedures. This has been reviewed by our advisory design panel, and they've incorporated, and within the report, it does detail how they responded to the questions of the advisory design panel and suggestions. And before you are the recommendations for moving this project to second reading, and they are contained within the report. And yesterday, I received the response from the school board, and it hopefully has been circulated to the councillors. And that is the end of my presentation. And if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Mayor Rumi, seconded by Councillor Doze. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Youssef, followed by Councillor Carreras.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to staff for the presentation. Just real quick, my litmus test, if you will, through the chair to staff, how far is the closest commercial or retail outlet?
Through the chair to Councillor Youssef, that's a great question, and thank you for that. We have just Currently, I couldn't tell you the distance, but we have just received the first application for the commercial component on the within that area on 112th Avenue, just on the corner on the southwest side of Lockwood and 112th Avenue. And this is the commercial node as identified within the Northeast Albion plan area has just come in as an application. So it's emerging. So currently, I couldn't tell you the distance to an existing commercial node.
Right. So there isn't an existing commercial
No.
node. There will be one in the future.
Yeah.
And through the chair, how far is that one going to be?
This one will, from the townhouse development, it probably is less than a 5-minute walk.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Youssef. Councillor Carreras?
Thanks. I have quite a few. And Councillor Youssef, if you want to look, I've got the map up of the Northeast Albion plan. If you want to see the red dots, and that's the one we're talking about. Just you want to see. A couple of questions. I just want to update, where are we with the Northeast Albion plan? I think it went to public hearing in September, but it still needs final.
Through the chair to Councillor Carreras, the Northeast Albion plan has been adopted and
Okay.
incorporated into the Albion plan.
Okay, and that's what I thought. It was late October, but on the website, it's not on our website. So you may, as I was looking last
Oh,
night,
okay, thank
it
you.
only shows public hearing in September of 2022, but I was pretty sure it got approved like right at the end of October. I think it was on that last agenda. So I just want to double check where it was. Have we had any discussions with SD 42? Obviously, we've got their letter and there are no schools anywhere for any of these folks to go to, anywhere in the East. Have we had any discussions with SD 42 around their plans they own the school site here. It's one of the few where they own. Any plans to work with the provincial government? Because of course they're at the will of the provincial government to build schools.
Through the chair, I would defer that question to the director.
Through the chair, as you correctly point out, the timing is really dependent upon the province and the school board. We understand their first priority is maybe on Silver Valley, and then this would be the next potential school site. I'm thinking that could be about 10 years out potentially. Thank you.
Right. And I know June is when they release their capital plan that they submit to the province too. So, part of the Northeast Albion plan talks about transit and the need to get, because this is really out there. It's not close to anything. Have we had any discussions with transit about expansion?
So thank you, if I could, through the chair. So we continue to have discussions with TransLink about transit into the Albion area. The strategic transportation plan is coming forward to council for consideration shortly. Does address increased transit into the Albion area. And going forward, it'll be advocacy on our part with TransLink to determine what kind of increase in bus service we can get out to that area, as well as setting up for that future Albion transit hub in the long term.
Where is the hopeful Albion transit hub?
So at this point, the Albion Transit Hub is a star on a map, so quite generic at this point, but it's showing at this point on near Lougheed and 240th Street.
240, okay. And I have a question for staff, because I was trying to find a really good drawing that was clear of the urban boundary for Maple Ridge. I was having a tough time finding one that wasn't this crazy map that I couldn't. Is there somewhere where I can find a really, just because the last proposal and this proposal were right on the edge, and I'm just curious the actual urban boundary lines. If someone can send me a map or show me where I can find it.
So, through the chair, staff will provide each of the councillors the location of it and have a PDF printed out, so it's forwarded to all of councillors.
Great, thanks. Sorry, am I good for time? Can I? Oh, okay. Then I'll go for the second round for my big one. But my other one is, what exactly are our plans for that park in the middle? Because we're losing a lot of trees. So Do we have any idea as to what that park will look like?
Through the chair, I would defer the design of the park to our manager of parks that's here, Chad Neufeld.
I'm just trying to catch every department on this one. Sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate the comment or question. Yes, we have been working with the applicant to develop a concept plan based on what we understand and know pretty much for new developing areas of what typical amenities are in a park. So playground, sports courts, scooter tracks, something like that. It's in a very conceptual design right now. Is more testing the concept so that we're comfortable with the area of the land, and we know that the program and the amenities will fit on that area.
Okay, so like a built out park, not a natural park.
Correct. Yeah, an active park that'll be actively programmed and not a conserved area with everything else. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Are you good for now? Okay, I'll try not to scoop any of your big questions. I did have a couple of questions myself, and just in regards to the park. So do I understand correctly that the city will be purchasing the portion of land that will be the park?
Through the chair, this piece of land is going to be, it's a purchase, it's an acquisition of the park land, and that will be subject to a future council report. And it's coming forth as a negotiated, as outlined in the report, that this isn't dedicated land to the city, it's a purchase.
Okay.
And
thank
the
you.
terms have not been determined at this juncture.
Thank you for that. Most of my questions were around the sort of environmental impacts. This does seem like a pretty large development with some fairly significant impacts. And I was just reading in the report about the tributaries and the detention ponds and things that were planned. And there was some talk about an underground detention pond for the creek, if I understand correctly. Is that something that we've done before in the community, like that type of project?
Through the chair, to Councillor Schiller, I couldn't tell you the details of the engineering if we've done this before, but this has gone through our environmental review department and at a significant review.
Yeah.
And they are satisfied with the proposal and the details of it, that it meets the environmental objectives in the OCP. To talk to other projects, I couldn't do that.
Fair enough. Thank you. Forrest?
Yeah, happy to step in on that. And so the pond, as I understand, is an offset for some environmental encroachments. And then the in-ground detention is for the stormwater management plan side of things. And so the stormwater management plan, in-ground detention is something we see on a lot of our applications. And it's the requirements that we're controlling that water and releasing it at a rate similar to pre-development rates.
And so finally, then once that system is in place, that underground detention pond, who will ultimately own and maintain that? Is something the strata will maintain or something the city will maintain?
So thank you. So in this case, this is in-pipe detention within our storm network. And so it would be something that would be maintained by the city going forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Tan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. A couple of questions here about the infrastructure for this project. I'm looking at this project and also the larger Northeast Albion plan, as Councillor Guerrero pointed out, and there's a fair amount of development for this slated for this area. Can staff sort of talk to me through the infrastructure costs for this? Like both, I know the developer will be in charge of developing it, but in terms of maintaining the infrastructure for this, so whether it's streetlight, sidewalks, or road maintenance upgrades, and particularly I'm concerned about 112 Avenue with the bend and the curvy bend where there's quite a bit of a grade. Yeah, if staff would be able to just talk me through whether we've costed that out and what that would look like for us.
Yes, absolutely. And so through the chair, I can speak to a couple of components of that. And so from the outset, when we started considering this neighborhood area plan, we did not include that scope of 112 for upgrading as part of that discussion for this section of the community. But we do have a multi-use path identified along 112th from Lockwood to 244th. We have that under design currently from a city perspective, and we anticipate that that will come to construction in 2026 or 2027. Of course, that's dependent upon available funding. And so that's the one component on the road conditions and providing those active transportation connections to and from this area of the community. From the other side of things, and so made more the underground utility side. We've worked extensively with the applicant on sanitary modeling and water modeling for the area. There have been upgrades required of the developer within the area to bring the infrastructure up to a point where it can accommodate this growth. And so from the engineering standpoint, we're confident that we can support the development going forward.
Thank you for that. And I just want to make sure I understand that deeply. Excuse me. Just my understanding is that, of course, like that the city is responsible for maintaining the infrastructure costs, like going forward after it's been built by the developer. Has that been costed into our financial plans, the build out of this area? You might have answered that, but I might have not understood in the response.
That's a good question. I can expand on that a bit. And so typically, when we're looking at new developments and creating new units and new tax base, the ideology behind that is that new tax base would become contributors to our general tax revenue, and the new units would continue to start paying for their share of this infrastructure going forward. And so there's initial cost to install that infrastructure, and that's typically what we call that development cost charges or infrastructure that's supplied by the developer to get it there. And then once it's there, those residents that move into the buildings or the businesses that move into the commercial industrial areas, they continue to then from that point forward start paying that residential or commercial tax rate. And that money goes back to maintaining that infrastructure in the long term.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. And through Madam Chair again, I'd be curious to see some data on that. I see there's a lot of questions about whether growth does actually pay for growth, and this is quite a significant build out of green belt. So I just want to, and my concern comes of wanting to ensure that this will or could be or might be a fiscally responsible decision. So I wouldn't mind. I understand the philosophy behind that. Thank you for that. And just actually seeing some numbers or some data around that would be helpful for me. And over not just the development of the infrastructure, but over the infrastructure life cycle and looking at the next 30, 40 years that taxpayers will be on the hook for. That would be helpful. And I'm just going to park that piece there. I would love to see that come back next time. Second piece is I just want to make sure I really understand 112th Avenue, and having driven along 112th Avenue, one thing it is quite a curvy bending road with quite a bit of grade, and we are talking about putting a fairly significant amount of development here. I'm just in terms of a traffic safety perspective, because I imagine a lot of folks, the new residents will come into 112th Avenue. Is the engineering able to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. And so we do receive feedback on this section of 112th Avenue. The most feedback we receive is about the active transportation side of things, and so the walking and cycling and for horses as well. We get comments on, and so that's why we're moving forward with that project in future to try to help delineate those modes of traffic from the road itself. In regards to the road cross section, it is a very challenging area. And so we're adjacent to Kanaka Creek. We have some very challenging topography in the area. And so we've looked at potentials for widening this section of road. It is very challenging to be quite costly. Having said that, we do have in future at some point that there's a wood bridge across Kanaka that needs to be replaced. And so at that point, we can also look at what other road network improvements we could do, but we'd expect them to be relatively minimal and to where we have land available to make those changes.
Thanks so much for that. You don't hear me often talk about vehicular traffic. I am concerned about making sure that this stays safe for folks and that we don't get complaints down the road about it. Thanks, Madam Chair. That's it for me for now.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Anyone else for round one? Okay, do we need round two? Yes, Counselor Carreras.
Thank you. Thank you. Just two questions on this round. Townhouse development, off-street parking. I'm just wondering for clarification. So required 204, proposed in the garage 177, proposed apron. What is proposed apron?
Through the chair to Councillor Carreras, the size of the apron is the question. For that, there will be parking facilitated on the apron outside of the garage.
So it would be like the driveway.
Yes,
So it would be one car in the driveway and one car in a garage and one car on the driveway.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Is there a certain length that the aprons need to be?
There is. I will follow up with
Okay.
those details for
I
you.
just think there's a lot of working folk with trucks in our area. Okay. And then my next bit is around the variances. These variances aren't just tinkering around the side. Some of these variances are quite significant for an eastern area, especially on some of the single family home lots. I think it's really on that long. I'm just trying to find where it is in my package now. There was a long list. Hold on, let's see if I can find it. Sorry, my package that I made my notes on got deleted last night and I had to reload it this morning. I think it's on page 9 to 12 is when we start going into it, where you go from 24 meters down to 3 meters on a lot
Through
depth variance. Are these, is it common to have variances that are this significant where you go from 6 meters down to 3 meters, or
through the
24 meters down to 3 meters is pretty huge, so.
Through the chair to Councillor Carreras, these variances are not unusual within a development when you're working with different topographies and different shaped lots. And these have come about as a result of some of the unusual configuration or different configurations of the lot in order to accommodate all the environmental components, the infrastructure. So they're not always of a uniform shape, the lots. In order to address that, we need to do variances to be creative with the lots.
So in lot 7, where you go from 24 meters down to 3 meters in the depth, does that mean they have a much wider lot? So they have a side yard? It's on page 9 of 12, but I don't have a good map of sort of which lot is where.
I would have to pull up the plan. I don't have it in front of me. It would be to address those are the townhouses, to address the lot configuration.
Yeah, these are the single family lots.
Yes.
Yeah.
So lot 7, I would have to, just one moment. It's on page Appendix E of your plan. And it's
it's not legible for me, really. Okay, there's 7.
I believe I would have to pull the plan out because I can't read it. Sorry. I can follow up with those details for you.
Thank you.
And again, this variance is coming forth after second reading, and it gives the opportunity for the proponent to understand the concerns of council and the final design.
That's why I'm asking the questions today, because I know they're in the hall today, so they can hear what some of the concerns are. So thank you.
Counselor Tan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff, could staff please remind me what's in the urban area and boundary and what's not?
Through the chair, the proposed lot 37 on Appendix E, a small portion of that lot lies outside of the urban containment boundary. And As part of the Northeast Albion Plan, it was known that this portion of the property lied outside of the Northeast Albion Area Plan. And in order to address that, that is why we're zoning to RS2 to be in compliance with that. And when the plan was done, there was an intentional thought of not amending the urban containment boundary.
Thank you for that. And through you again, Madam Chair, can you please remind me, is the rest of the Northeast Albion Plan within the urban area containment boundary?
Through the chair to Councillor Tan, this portion is.
Sorry, pardon me. Aside from that portion that you pointed out previously, thank you.
Councillor Tan, can you just repeat your question? It was just a little hard to make out. If you could just repeat it.
Pardon me. Yeah, could staff, thank you for I'm asking about an urban area boundary, and staff noted that there was that appendix where that is just a small portion of that corner is not within the urban area boundary for this application. I just wanted to ask for the rest of the Northeast Albion Plan that I see here, is the rest of it within the urban area boundary?
Through the chair to Councillor Tan, from my knowledge, yes, it is. And I will provide the map to all of council so they have a clear understanding where the boundary is.
Thank you very much. That's it for me now, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Goddard?
If I could just add a word of clarity. The existing land straddles the boundary between the urban area and the suburban area. So we have to deal with the land that we're dealing with. And we had to then resolve this conflict. And this was the best way to do it, by redesignating it and making a zoning adjustment to that parcel of land that's beyond. And that land will in future be consolidated with lands outside of the urban boundary to resolve the conflict. But for now, we're dealing with the land that's actually straddling that line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with questions? All right, I'll hit you with my last one then. Just looking at the report under the planning analysis, the official community plan, it sort of talks about redesignation, sort of, for lack of a more technical term, like shuffling things around. We're changing townhouse to park, but we're changing conservation to townhouse. And so I just want to make sure like I'm understanding what the bottom line of this is. In the report, it says, this will result in approximately 300 square meters being removed from the park and conservation areas in the Northeast Albion Plan. So am I correct in understanding that that's sort of like park or natural area that is being lost through this development?
It's just fine tuning the lines that through all of the assessments and fine tuning 300, as stated in the report, is being removed from that designation. There has been additional compensation as a result of the boundary adjustments.
What kind of additional compensation?
There will be enhancements within the wetland area as detailed in a future report to council on through the natural features and watercourse development permit requirements when they enter into the agreement for the maintenance of the and enhancement agreements. And I don't have those details.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goddard.
Just another point of clarity. An area plan is not as detailed as survey plans and development plans that you see. And so when the area plan is devised, sometimes we have to make adjustments with those boundaries because we ground truth the actual development site relative to those boundaries. And that's why you'll see some adjustments being made. When we actually apply the subdivisions and the rezonings to the property, that will bring adjustments to the OCP area plan designation. That's what we're doing here. So they'll all match up in the end when all the development is completed. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a helpful explanation. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one more to get in there. About the park plan, and if I heard correctly, the conversation now is for the city to purchase this land from the applicant. And I just note that in other development applications, we've seen that some developers have, in a sense, given the land to the city, parkland that they weren't going to use for development. Has there been any discussion with the developer or whether they would be looking to donate that land to the city rather than having the city purchase it?
Through the chair to Councillor Tan, through the Northeast Albion area planning process that started several years ago, it was part of the planning process that this would be purchased by the city with respect to the land. There are portions of land through that will be dedicated through to the city, but this one has been envisioned to be purchased by the city from the onset of the planned development within the Northeast Albion area.
Thank you for that response. And could staff help me? So just as a newbie councillor, can staff sort of explain to me under what circumstances the city will purchase the land and under what circumstances we'd be looking for the developer to contribute it?
Through the chair, I will defer that question to the Director of Planning.
Thank you. It is a very good question. Traditionally, we have purchased active parks in this city over the history. However, council could make it a condition of zoning that any type of park could be dedicated. There have been some discussions internally with staff upon that possibility. We would probably seek council direction on that sort of directional change. All conservation areas are dedicated as a condition of zoning, and those are the water course areas and their riparian areas. But if council chose to start seeking the dedication of developable parkland, that is certainly a possibility. Of course, the applicants would have some issues and concern with that, and we would like to raise that with them early on. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for me.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this forward to the next council meeting? And that has passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is item 5.4, rezoning application 2020-369 for 12478 223 Street from RS3 to RS1B. Staff are in attendance to present the application to council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council. Thank you. This is the application for a two-lot split in the urban area. RS3 to RS1B is the proposal. It's on a quarter-acre site. This shows the subject site in our urban area. Across the street is another two-lot split. They're planning to do two lots here as well in a division between east and west. There's our urban designation. There's the context of the neighborhood. Various sizes of homes in this area, probably dating from the 1960s and 70s. Okay, there's an RS1B lot is the proposal to create two lots. Those are our size of 557 minimum square foot lots. And they're known as RS1B. They're an urban lot. They're a large urban lot by today's standards. The minimum of off-street parking is required 2 per dwelling. There's visitor parking is not required because it's single family. They have large driveways. Bike parking, of course, is not required under the bylaw either for a single family home. And we have a community amenity charge for the creation of one new lot from the second one of $7,100. There was an issue raised at the earlier meetings of the public about a tree being proposed to be saved on lot 2. It's a white oak, I believe, and there'll be a covenant required to preserve that tree. They'll have to adjust the house design and driveway to accommodate this long-term survival of that tree. We need a servicing agreement. There'll be the covenant for that tree. There'll be a covenant for a stormwater management plan. It is safe. There's no contamination that's been determined on the site from any past underground fuel storage. And they have to contribute to the community amenity for one lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Mayor Rumi, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this forward to the next council meeting, and that has passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is item 5.5, rezoning 2021-411 for 12392 Gray Street from RS1 to R1. Staff are in attendance to present the application to council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much like the last one, it's a 2-lot split in an urban area. Slowly densifying. It is urban designated. It's RS1 to R1 this time. The minimum lot sizes are essentially half the size, 450 meters squared each, and there'll be 2 lots created from a lot that's almost a 1/4 acre. This shows the site, and it is shown in red there on 124th and Gray Street. Don't think we've had another application in this area, but it'll be creating 2 lots in the urban designation. There's the current home with its surrounding neighborhoods, various sizes. Again, we're rezoning the site this time to R1. It is a standard large size urban lot as well today, even though the minimum size is 375. Both of these lots will be larger than that at 387 and 415. We have vehicle access from Gray Avenue, not on 124th. Again, there'll be minimum 2 parking stalls per unit. So they could have vehicle chargers, private homeowners if they desire. Visitor parking is not required because it is single family, and there'll be a community amenity charge of 1 new lot at $7,100. There is a variance has been received, and the variance is to reduce the minimum lot width from a slight less than a half a meter from 13.5 to 12.98, which is about 6 inches, just the lot width. There's also some road dedication that'll be required, and we're not going to build the road out to its full capacity because it's not needed here, but there we go. Those reports, that variance will be coming forward to in a future report when the application goes for final reading. This is the proposed subdivision plan. You can see the dedication being taken is quite substantial on 124th, none on Gray Street. That reduces the width of the lots. That's probably why they chose the R1 zone. But they each meet the minimum lot sizes for that zone. Thus, again, here's the bylaws going to second reading. We're moving on to public hearing if council desires. There will be a servicing agreement. There will be some road dedications. There'll be a covenant for the geotechnical report and probably the stormwater management covenant and that contribution for the CAC for 1 lot. Pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this forward to the next council meeting, and that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. And we'll move forward to the next item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is 6.1, award of contract EN 23-6 for Dooney Trunk Road Storm Sewer Upgrade and 225 Street and Royal Crescent Sanitary Sewer Upgrade. Staff are in attendance to answer questions from council.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Mayor Rumi. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Tan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the Historical Society was approaching the city for additional support and possibly for moving the museum to a more permanent location. Do we have an update on that discussion?
Councillor Tan, sorry to interrupt. We're just on the contract of the storm sewer upgrade. I believe the Historical Society item is.
I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. I totally missed it.
Mr. Smith to answer this question anyway, but probably we're best off to just stick to item 6.1 here.
I'll hold off to then. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? All those then in favor of moving this forward to the next council meeting? Thank you. That has passed unanimously. Okay, and the next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is item 6.2, award of contract EN 23-34, Tamarack Lane Sanitary Lift Station Replacement. Staff are in attendance to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Mayor Rumi, seconded by Councillor Doze. Are there any questions? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to staff, is this going to increase capacity ultimately, and will this affect the Albion Flats water table at all?
Thank you. And so through the chair, and so we're no anticipation to affect the water table in the Albion Flats area. And so really we're focused here on the lift station, so sanitary sewage movement. And so it's being designed to accommodate for any growth within the area. But really the main reason for this replacement is some aging infrastructure that's currently out there in the field. And so it's come across its expected useful life. And so it's time for replacement. And so this is one that we do have maintenance challenges with, and we do exert considerable effort to keep it running. And so this is a great project for the city to bring us forward with some new infrastructure for our engineering operations team.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair. That was my question.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this forward to next week's council meeting. And that has passed unanimously. Next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is item 8.1, Maple Ridge Historical Society lease and operating agreements. Staff are in the room for answering questions of council. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Carrera, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions for staff? Councillor Tan.
I think I finally found the right item now, or to ask my question. And just going back, which is the how our discussions with the Historical Society have been going about their concerns about wanting a new space. Thanks so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Catronio.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, Councillor Tam, I didn't really hear the question.
Sorry, Mr. Catronio, I think I'm having internet difficulties. The question was about our discussions with the Historical Society. I believe they've asked us about additional space or a different venue. Do we have any update on that discussion?
In regards to additional space, we don't have an update on the discussions at all, but we will move forward in good faith to have those discussions. In regards to discussions in general, it's been difficult only in the sense that we've had 3 portfolio changes. And so we've had to backtrack a little bit. And also we've had 2 mat leaves in between from the executive director. So in regards to them in general, I think they've gone well. They've got some great points that we've changed on our end. And I think the discussions with our new legal team as well has changed some of the old language. So we had to get through that part as well. But all in all, I think we're where we need to be with it. And, the only thing left, I think, is to talk about space down the road and to talk about supporting another position, just having those discussions down the road as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you, Madam Chair. I think my questions are not so much about this particular operating agreement or the lease agreement renewal, but just about the questions they have posed to us about that additional storage space in the new venue. So I look forward to hearing those discussion updates and those come through. Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Actually, I just like a little bit more information, please. In this report, there's a section that talks about the request from the society for the archivist position, I believe it is. And can you just provide a bit more information on sort of the thinking on asking them to come back? I think there was a request that they maybe report back in the future on the work that the current contractor has done. And if you could just maybe provide a little bit of staff's thinking on how the city can support them.
I can generally provide that response, but those were conversations that were had with our previous director and the executive director, who are both away from the position right now. So the idea was that the discussion for the archivist was going to happen partway through the agreement that was to be in place. Now, timing is as such that happens to be now, based on the timelines. So those discussions are going to have to be had now based on the conversations that was had between the director and the executive director. So that portfolio sits with Russ right now, and I'm sure he's going to have some discussions with Stefan about how to move forward with that.
I think if I can jump in on this one, Madam Chair, just for a second, just to provide some additional clarity, I hope. Basically, they had brought some needs forward. There was another funding mechanism that we were able to explore. We explored it. They were able to get some funding. And I think through the course of that contract, we will be in a position to be able to evaluate and bring forward a plan in future for the long-term plan. But I think it was temporarily just meant to be let's try this out. Let's see if there's value in having a position like this. Because we were able to access other grant dollars for that. It's worked out well. So I think there's some more reporting that we would look at doing as part of our next business planning cycle along with that. So.
Thank you. That is very helpful. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of moving this forward to next week's council meeting. And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is item 9.1, the 2022 annual report and 2022 statement of financial information. Staff are here to answer questions from council. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of moving this forward to next council meeting, that has passed unanimously. Thank you. Next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is item 10, community forum. Participants in the community forum are reminded that there should be no discussion of public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for community forum is 15 minutes. For members of the public who'd like to speak during the forum, if you're participating electronically, please register as a speaker by clicking on the microphone icon in the One Meeting portal. If you're attending the meeting in person, please come forward to the podium when the chair invites speakers and clearly state your name and city of residence before your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to address council? Do we see anyone online? Okay, seeing no one here today for community forum, we'll move on to the next item.
The last item on today's agenda is item 11, adjournment.
Thank you. As we've reached the end of the agenda, can I please have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Carreras, seconded by Councillor Youssef. All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned at 12:20 p.m.